There were a bunch of primaries and one special election this week. Republicans barely survived a challenge in Ohio's 12th congressional district as the GOP candidate won by 1 point in a district Donald Trump won by 20. Democrats were heartened by the narrow defeat, but who are the Democrats? Liberals or socialists? They're in a struggle to figure that out. So let's talk about all this and, of course, what the media is doing to prop up the leftist cause with Liberty Nation editor-in-chief Lisa K. Donner. So, Lisa, let's start with Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell, an endless source of entertainment for those of us who enjoy watching both politics and entertainment, if there's any difference between them.
Oh, boy.
So this week, let's set this up right. Let's first talk, because I'm having you on, I had to make sure to bring in not only Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump, of course, but also one of your longtime favorites, Megyn Kelly, as we take a trip.
I need a martini.
As we take a trip down memory lane to the first iteration, or the first known iteration of Donald Trump pounding on Rosie O'Donnell in the political sphere. And this was during the debate, or one of the debates, there were so many of them, during the 2016 presidential election. And Rosie O'Donnell became the subject of a long-remembered taunt by Donald Trump.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't.
So that is where the battle was really joined in particular, and Rosie was happy to come back at him.
Listen, he's the worst human being alive, and he is by far the worst person who has ever had that job.
Okay. So that's a setup for what Rosie said this week. We know that the left believes this story of collusion between Trump and Russia, but almost all of them, even the hard left, will stipulate that no actual votes were changed by Russian spies or bots or hackers or whatever it is.
Is this where we bring in the Twilight Zone music?
This is pretty much where we do it, because here's what Rosie O'Donnell had to say about the rigged 2016 election.
If somehow they're able to rig the elections again, as I believe they did in 2016, then we're going to all be in trouble as democracy dies right here on our watch. I do believe it was rigged, and if you listen to all of our mainstream intelligence people, they believe it too.
Well, they don't believe votes were changed.
Media. Did they come in there and make Trump win when every single exit poll and every person in America knew for sure that Hillary Clinton was going to win? Do you think that there was anything to do with Russia, or just a real big swirl for Donald Trump in these specific areas with the same exact amount of votes that were needed? I don't know. It looks very hinky to me.
Looks hinky to her.
Does she believe that 9/11 happened, or the Holocaust, or...
Well, she also said in this particular interview with Chris Cuomo on CNN, and by the way, didn't you love the fact that it was Chris Cuomo saying, well, wait a minute, I mean, there's no charges that any votes were actually changed. I mean, he was actually defending the reasonable position in this case. I guess
we really do need the Twilight Zone music for Rosie. She has fallen off the wagon.
Well, you say fallen as if it's a new sort of thing that happened to her. She fell off that wagon miles back, and she's what you would call roadkill in the path of Donald Trump. But something else that we have to talk about, because we always do, and you're the editor-in-chief and longtime journalist, so you're in a position to criticize the establishment, elite, legacy media more than the average Joe who simply reads this stuff. The Trump supporters intimidating reporters. It happened most famously at an event in Florida where the guy from CNN, Jim Acosta, was pelted by a verbal assault from Trump supporters. Now, is this an appropriate thing for Trump supporters to be doing? Did they go over the line, or did they not?
Well, I think in the case of Jim Acosta, he's made himself the story. That is the issue. He doesn't report the news. He stands up, he heckles the president, or at the time, heckles the candidates, and he tries to put himself in the limelight. And I think when you do that, you become subject to whatever the public has to say about you. But there is the question of whether the actual safety of these reporters is being threatened. I want you to listen to something from Katie Tur on NBC. She covered the Trump presidential campaign, wrote a book about it. I read it. It was kind of interesting. But I want you to react to what she says about the atmosphere surrounding the media when it comes to Donald Trump.
Sadly, the harassment and threats are not stopping. Journalists get them every day. We've been getting them since the campaign, when then candidate Trump urged the crowd to yell and scream at us. But what you saw and still see on TV, those boos and those taunts, are only part of it. What you do not see are the nasty letters or packages or emails, the threats of physical violence. I hope you get raped and killed, one person wrote to me just this week. And in case you want to argue that this has nothing to do with the president, the most recent note I got ended with MAGA. Katie Tur isn't the only one getting nasty letters and emails.
And threats.
Look at the director of Homeland Security. Look at Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Shannon Bream tweeted out that she has been reporting on the scene for years and years and years, and she was standing outside of the U.S. Supreme Court, and she said, I never really felt physically threatened or frightened, or I can't remember her exact words in the tweet, as I have tonight.
For you, Megyn Kelly pushes all your buttons. There's someone like that for me, and her name is Jennifer Rubin. She is the, quote, conservative, unquote, columnist for the Washington Post, a former operative from Republican establishment and one of the most severe of the never-Trumpers. She's an insufferable presence on TV with her whiny, moany voice, her whole countenance.
Republicans, they are shameless. They will not do anything. That's what we've seen over and over again. We keep waiting for that moment when they will finally topple over, and it never comes. So they will, I think, at the point at which the prosecutor dumps this report, they'll say, oh, this is much to do about nothing. This is all political. Hopefully by then, though, there'll be a different party in control of the House of Representatives.
There'll be a different party by the House of Representatives.
This woman is, you said, is a Republican?
Yeah, yes. She's a Washington Post Republican. She's a never-Trump Republican, like all the Republicans on CNN and MSNBC and in the Washington Post and the New York Times. She's a never-Trump Republican, Trump hater in a party that supports their president at a rate of about 90%, higher even than Ronald Reagan. But there she is saying that not only she's now expanding the scope, as are her fellow never-Trumpers. They're going beyond Trump. Now they're saying that the Trump supporters are bad people and that the Republicans, elected Republicans who support Trump, are to be condemned for their failure to condemn their own president. That's basically what she's saying there. And then this conservative columnist says, hopefully we'll have the Democrats in control of the House of Representatives.
You could probably catch her down at the old Ebbett Grill having drinks with George Will.
And their new friends on the left from MSNBC and CNN. You notice how friendly and how they yuck it up now. People like Bill Kristol and George Will and Jennifer Rubin, they're so comfortable with all the elite media people who they used to be opposed to.
Yeah, I just wanted to put in a comment today by Morning Joke Scarborough, who said the Republican Party is becoming the party of rural America.
Yes.
As if it was some evil place.
Well, that's where all the deplorables and irredeemables live, Lisa.
Yeah, I guess so.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.